My dear brothers and sisters, have you ever found yourself sitting alone in the quiet of the night with a question echoing in the deepest chambers of your heart? A question you are almost afraid to whisper, does Allah Almighty still see me? Perhaps you have turned your face towards the heavens, your cheeks damp with tears that no one else has seen, and you have spoken to Him, you have poured out your soul, yet you feel as though your words disappear into an endless void. You have tried so hard to do what is right. You have been patient. You have held on to your faith with everything you have. You have remained steadfast when it would have been so much easier to crumble. But the ache in your heart does not seem to fade. The sting of rejection from someone you loved still feels so fresh. The path ahead remains shrouded in mists, uncertain and frightening. And in that heavy silence, your heart begins to form heavier questions. Why is this happening to me? Why must I endure this now? Why does this journey feel so incredibly lonely, so profoundly unfair? This is a feeling that so many of us carry, a weight that settles upon our spirits. It does not come from a place of weak faith, not at all. It comes from a place of exhaustion. It is the cry of a heart that has been brave for so long and is now just weary. Life can sometimes feel like a long corridor of locked doors, a series of beautiful dreams that seem to dissolve into mist the moment you reach for them. A collection of prayers that you feel have gone unanswered. But my dear friend, I want you to pause for a moment. I want you to breathe. And I want you to consider something that may change everything. What if the silence you are experiencing is not a sign of absence? What if that silence is in fact a form of divine protection? What if the things that did not work out, the people who turned and walked away from your life, the moments that shattered your carefully laid plans into a million pieces, were not punishments, but were all threads in a grand tapestry of mercy being woven specifically for you? You see, we often imagine that divine protection will feel like a visible miracle, a sudden parting of the seas before us. We expect it to be loud and grand and obvious. But more often than not, it does not feel like that. Sometimes the most profound protection from Allah Almighty feels like heartbreak. Sometimes the door that slammed shut in your face was the very thing that saved you from walking into a devastating storm you had no idea was brewing just beyond the threshold. Sometimes the person who left your life, leaving behind an empty space that aches, was making room for your own healing to finally begin. Sometimes the unexpected delay in your journey was the one thing that prevented you from reaching a destination where you would have broken in a way that you could never recover from. This is not just a comforting thought. It is a spiritual truth, a reality deeply embedded within our faith. It is a reminder that our vision is limited, but His is infinite. You are not being overlooked. You are being carefully, lovingly, and perfectly guarded. So, if you have been moving through your days feeling unseen, feeling forgotten, or feeling hopelessly lost, please stay with me. Let us take this journey together. Let us learn to look at our pain not as a final verdict, but as a process. Let us gently uncover the hidden mercy that so often arrives in the disguise of an unanswered prayer. Because it is entirely possible, my dear friend, that the very thing you thought was meant to break you was actually sent to protect you. Have you ever looked at your life, at the path you are on, and felt a deep sense of confusion? You had a plan, you had a destination in mind, you made your intention, you put your trust in Allah Almighty, and you began to walk only to find yourself facing a wall where you expected an open gate. A relationship you nurtured with sincerity and love suddenly ended, leaving you bewildered. A career you poured your heart and soul into vanished, leaving you feeling without purpose. A dream you held on to through years of difficulty crumbled just when you thought you were about to reach it. In these moments, it is so easy for the heart to fall into despair. It is easy to think that something has gone terribly wrong, that you have somehow failed, or worse, that you are being punished for some past mistake you may not even be aware of. The whispers of self-doubt grow louder, telling you that perhaps you are not worthy of goodness, that perhaps you are not deserving of evil. But I want to ask you, with the utmost gentleness, to consider an alternative, a perspective that requires a shift, not in your circumstances, but in your heart. What if these setbacks, these painful detours, were not failures at all? What if they were signs? What if they were loving messages from the one who cares for you most, guiding you away from a harm that was hidden from your eyes? Could it be that the things that left your life were never truly meant to be part of your story's beautiful ending? Could it be that the ache you feel right now is the growing pain of your soul being stretched to accommodate a bigger blessing that is on its way? You see, the protection of Allah Almighty does not always arrive with loud drums and fanfare. It does not always manifest as immediate comfort or instant clarity. Sometimes His protection is wrapped in the quiet stillness of a lonely night. It is veiled in the struggle of having to start all over again. It is hidden in the separation from something or someone you desperately wanted to keep. His wisdom is never ever absent. It is present in every single moment, even when His grand plan feels completely hidden from our limited view. This understanding is the key to unlocking a treasure of inner peace. It is the beginning of learning to see with the eye of your heart, not just the eye of your head. When you start to see life's disappointments as divine redirections, the bitterness begins to dissolve, the anger softens into acceptance, the confusion gives way to a quiet, hopeful curiosity about what Allah Almighty has in store for you instead. Not every delay is a denial. Let that sink into your heart for a moment. Just because the blessing has not arrived on your timeline does not mean it is not coming. Not every loss is a punishment. Sometimes in order to receive something better, something has to be removed. And not all silence is abandonment. Sometimes Allah Almighty is silent so that you can learn to listen to the voice of your own heart speaking to Him. There is profound wisdom in the waiting. There is immense growth in the quiet moments. There is unimaginable mercy in being redirected. So as we move forward, let us hold this truth close. Let us begin to look for the signs, not of punishment, but of protection. They may be small and they may be subtle, but they are there, waiting to be noticed by a heart that is willing to see. To truly understand the depth and beauty of how Allah Almighty protects us, even through immense difficulty, we only need to turn to the stories He has preserved for us. Let us gently step into the life of a noble prophet, a man whose story is a powerful testament to pain, betrayal, patience, and ultimately unparalleled divine protection. Let us reflect on the journey of Prophet Joseph. Peace be upon him. He was wronged by the very people who should have loved him the most, yet he never for a single moment lost his connection to his Creator. I want you to imagine this for a moment. Picture a young boy, pure of heart and full of beautiful dreams, being led away by his own brothers. Not by strangers, not by enemies in the battlefield, but by his own flesh and blood. They looked at him, and instead of love, they felt a burning envy. They could not stand to see the light in him, and so they conspired. They threw him into the darkness of a deep, empty well, thinking that this cruel action would be the end of his story. But what their jealousy blinded them from seeing was that this moment of utter darkness was not an end. It was in fact the very beginning of one of the most magnificent stories of trust and triumph ever told. From the outside, it was a horrifying tragedy, a complete and utter nightmare. But from the perspective of Allah Almighty, the All-Wise, it was the first critical step in a plan that would elevate Joseph to a station they could never have imagined. He was found, but his ordeal was far from over. He was sold as a slave, taken to a foreign land, far from everything he knew and loved. A place where nobody knew his name, nobody knew his noble lineage, and nobody cared for the silent pain in his young heart. He could have so easily fallen into despair. He could have become bitter, angry, and hopeless. But he did not. Even in this land of strangers, even while stripped of his freedom, Joseph carried himself with an unshakable dignity. He remained firm in his faith, trusting that Allah Almighty still saw him, still knew his suffering, and was still with him. And then his test became even more severe. After years of servitude, he was faced with a powerful temptation. He chose the path of righteousness. He refused to betray his values and his Lord. And for this noble choice, he was rewarded with a false accusation. He was thrown into prison. Think about that for a moment. He did the right thing, the honorable thing, and yet he ended up behind bars, his name tarnished, his freedom taken away once more. How many times have we felt this in our own small ways? We try our best. We choose the honest path. We say no to what is wrong, and yet things still seem to go against us. But the story of Joseph teaches us a vital, life-altering lesson. Sometimes Allah Almighty places you in a situation you never asked for, in a place you would never choose to be, in order to protect you from a devastating outcome you cannot see. That cold, dark prison was not a punishment. It was his fortress, it was his protection. Because while Joseph sat behind those stone walls, forgotten by the world, Allah Almighty was meticulously setting the stage for his magnificent rise. A rise that would not only restore his honor, but would place him in a position of immense power, where he would become a source of mercy and justice for an entire nation. His story reminds us that even in the deepest well, even in the darkest prison, we are not forgotten. The plan is always unfolding. Now let us bring that powerful story closer to home, into the reality of our own lives. Because you may not be sitting in a physical prison like Prophet Joseph was, but perhaps emotionally that is exactly where you are. Perhaps you feel trapped in a situation that feels utterly hopeless, a job that drains your spirit every single day, a family dynamic that is filled with conflict and misunderstanding, a season of your life that feels like an endless series of closed doors and disappointments. You try with all your might to hold on to your faith, to keep your trust strong, but there is a weary part of you that keeps wondering, where is the ease that was promised? Where is the healing I have been praying for? When, oh when will things finally get better? It is in these very moments that the story of Joseph becomes not just a historical account, but a deeply personal source of comfort and strength. He did not receive immediate answers. He was not granted a quick and easy escape from his trials. He waited, he endured, and through it all, he stayed profoundly connected to Allah Almighty, even when he had every worldly reason to feel abandoned and to give up. And my dear friend, you can do the same. Your pain might not stem from the betrayal of your own brothers, but perhaps someone you trusted with your entire heart walked away from you. Perhaps they left without a word, without an explanation, or worse, they broke your heart with words that were untrue. You might find yourself replaying those final conversations over and over in your mind, trying to pinpoint what you did wrong, wondering why Allah Almighty did not intervene and stop it from happening. But perhaps He did stop something. Perhaps He stopped you from investing more years of your life into a connection that would have ultimately caused you even more pain. Maybe that heartbreak was the necessary first step towards your true healing. Maybe that loss was creating the space for a deep, unshakable peace that you could never have found otherwise. Or perhaps your struggle is not with heartbreak, but with a sense of failure. You put your entire being into that application. You studied, you prepared, you worked so hard, you made your prayers, you waited with hopeful anticipation, and then nothing. The silence that followed felt like a judgment on your worth. But what if that no was not a rejection, but a loving redirect? What if you were being protected from a toxic work environment that would have slowly eroded your peace and your connection to your faith? What if Allah Almighty has a different, more fulfilling path for you that you simply cannot see yet? Prophet Joseph had no idea his story would end in a palace when he was at the bottom of the well. He did not know he would become a leader while he was sitting alone in that prison cell. All he had was his trust, a pure, simple and profound trust in the wisdom of his Lord. And that trust became his unbreakable strength. It is this very same quality of trust that you are being called to cultivate today. In the quiet moments of your day, in the face of closed doors, in the long periods of waiting, and in the midst of your confusion, Allah Almighty is still writing your story. He is still building your character. He is still protecting you. And just like Joseph, you too will one day look back and see with perfect clarity how every single delay was an act of mercy. So the natural question that arises in the heart is a practical one. What do I do while I am in this period of waiting? How do I navigate my days while my heart is still heavy with sorrow? How do I keep my spirit from breaking when everything around me feels like it is falling apart? The answer, my dear friend, is not as complicated as you might think. It does not require you to be perfect. It does not demand that you suddenly stop feeling pain. It simply asks that you return gently, honestly, and completely to the one who has never ever left your side. Let us talk about some real, actionable steps you can take, starting from this very moment, to reconnect with that beautiful feeling of divine protection, even while you are in the midst of your emotional storm. First, and perhaps most importantly, talk to Allah Almighty. I do not mean in a formal way or with eloquent memorized words. I mean just talk. Speak to Him from your heart with complete honesty. Sometimes we hesitate to make that personal prayer because we feel it has to be perfect. We think we need to be in a certain state of purity or use specific phrases. But the truth is, Allah Almighty already knows every single thing that is in your heart. He's not waiting for a flawless performance. He is waiting for a genuine connection. Your prayer can be as simple as whispering, "Oh my Lord, I am so tired." It can be, "Please help me to understand this." It can be, "Please do not leave me alone in this pain." The profound beauty of this heartfelt conversation is that it immediately opens the door to healing. Not necessarily because your external situation will change in that instant, but because your heart will begin to soften and find peace in the presence of the one who loves you more than anyone. Second, do not ever underestimate the power of your formal prayers. Even when you feel disconnected, even when your mind is buzzing with 1,000 worries, even when your heart does not feel fully present, keep showing up. Your 5 daily prayers are not just an obligation, they are your spiritual lifeline. They ground you, they anchor you, they remind your soul that no matter how chaotic the worldly life feels, there is a sanctuary of peace waiting for you 5 times every single day. Third, remember Allah Almighty often, in the smallest of ways, throughout your day. You do not need to be in a special place or a perfect state of mind. You can remember Him while you are walking to the bus stop, while you are washing the dishes, while you are driving your car. Just a quiet whisper from your heart, I trust you, or I know you are near, or thank you for the blessings I still have. This constant, gentle remembrance becomes like a steady, strong rope that pulls your heart back towards tranquility, little by little. Fourth, practice gratitude even when it feels incredibly difficult. When you are hurting, trying to feel grateful can seem unnatural, almost impossible. But gratitude is not about ignoring your pain. It is about acknowledging your pain and then gently shifting your focus to say, even within this pain, I can still find one small thing to hold on to. Maybe it is the comfort of a warm blanket, the taste of clean water, or simply the ability to take a deep breath. Gratitude does not erase your hardship, but it fundamentally changes the way your heart carries it. And finally, be kind and gentle with yourself. You are not weak because you are struggling. You are not faithless because you are hurting. You are human. Allah Almighty sees your tears. He hears your silent pleas. He knows how hard you are trying, even when nobody else does. You are not being judged for your wounds. You are being held gently and lovingly by the one who understands your heart perfectly. Let us bring this conversation into the very real and sometimes very messy circumstances of our daily lives. Because it is one thing to hear a beautiful and comforting story, and it is an entirely different thing to have to walk through your own chapter of pain and uncertainty. Right now, as you listen to these words, you might be holding a heavy burden in your heart, quietly, silently, while the world continues to move on around you, completely unaware of the battle you are fighting inside. Perhaps you are in a relationship that is hurting your soul. It drains your energy. You find yourself crying more than you smile. You keep trying to fix it, to make it work, because you are terrified of what might happen if you let go. You wonder if it is wrong to walk away, or if enduring it is the true test of your patience. But my dear friends, sometimes the greatest protection from Allah Almighty comes in the form of the strength He gives you to walk away. Not as an act of rebellion, but as an act of self-preservation, an act of choosing peace. Sometimes the person you are desperately holding on to is the very obstacle Allah Almighty is trying to lovingly remove from your path. Or maybe your struggle is with unemployment. You have polished your resume until it shines. You have sent out countless applications. You have gone to interviews, and still you are met with silence. With each passing day, it becomes harder to fight off the feelings of worthlessness. You start to believe that your efforts are meaningless, that there is no place for you in this world. But what if this period of delay is not a rejection of your worth? What if it is a gift of space? Space for you to discover hidden talent. Space for you to learn a new skill. Space for you to reconnect with your family and your faith in a way you never could when you were caught up in the relentless pace of a 9-to-5 job. Sometimes, what we perceive as a devastating failure is actually Allah Almighty clearing the path for a redirection towards a future that is far better for our faith and our well-being. A future that was always in His plan but never in ours. And then there is that silent struggle that so many of us carry, the weight of mental and emotional exhaustion. On the outside, you are functioning. You smile, you fulfill your responsibilities. You are the strong one, the reliable one, the one who never seems to break. But on the inside, you are quietly, slowly falling apart. This struggle is not imaginary, it is real and it is valid. And the most beautiful truth is this: Allah Almighty does not just see your visible action, He sees your inner exhaustion too. He rewards you for your silent battles. He knows when you have to force yourself to stand in prayer while tears are streaming down your face. He knows when you whisper, I trust you, even when your heart is trembling with fear. Perhaps this particular test is not about proving how strong you are. Perhaps it is about teaching you how to lean not just on your own limited strength, but on His infinite support. Because healing does not always come in the form of a sudden miraculous solution. Sometimes it comes in the form of a quiet resilience. It comes from the profound and comforting knowledge that even if no one else in the entire world sees your pain, your Creator sees it, and His loving gaze is always upon you. These are not coincidences. You are gentle whispers, quiet reassurances from your Lord, saying, I am with you. I am guiding you. Trust me. As we come to the end of our time together, I want you to take a deep cleansing breath. You have made it through this journey, not just of listening to words, but of allowing your heart to reflect and perhaps to even begin the process of healing. And there is something I want you to know, something I want your heart to hold on to with absolute certainty, especially in its most vulnerable moments. You're not being punished, you're not being forgotten, you're not being ignored by the one who fashioned you with His own boundless love and wisdom. Sometimes the most powerful and profound protection from Allah Almighty does not look like what we expect a miracle to look like. It looks like the relationship that ended even though you did not want it to. It looks like the unexpected delay that frustrated you. It looks like the heavy silence that forced you to turn inward and find your strength, not in the world, but in Him. It looks like the pain that finally, after all this time, made you turn to Him with your entire being. You may not be able to see the wisdom in your circumstances right now. Your vision may be clouded by your tears and your fears, but you do not have to. All you need to hold on to is the unwavering belief that if something was removed from your life, it did not leave without the permission and wisdom of Allah Almighty. If an opportunity did not come to fruition, it did not fail to happen without His infinite mercy being at play. And if you are still here in this moment with breath in your lungs and life in your body, it means you are still being carried. You're still being cared for. There is a quiet, unshakable peace that descends upon the heart when you truly internalize the reality that nothing in your life is random. Not a single hardship, not a single delay, not a single loss, not a single rejection. Every single event, big and small, is a thread in the divine design that is being woven not against you, but always, always for you. The signs of His protection have been around you all along. The friend who sent a message at the exact moment you felt you were about to break. The wrong turn you took that made you late but saved you from an accident you never even knew about. The quiet strength you found within yourself that you did not know you possessed. And perhaps even the fact that you are here, listening to this message right now, is one of those signs, a gentle reminder sent directly to your heart. So if you find yourself in a season of confusion, a season of heartbreak, or a season of waiting, do not try to rush your way out of it. Do not fight it. Instead, try to sit with it, pray through it, and place your trust in it. Because the one who allowed the storm to begin is the very same one who is guiding you gently towards the calm. He is not finished with your story. He is simply protecting you from things you cannot yet see. So hold on to hope, hold on to your prayer, and hold on to the quiet, certain knowledge that you are never, ever alone. Because even when everything in your life feels uncertain, His mercy is the one thing that is always and forever certain. And it is always, always near.